Globotech Industries is a multinational conglomerate that specializes in manufacturing high-quality military hardware. Recently, they have acquired a toy company, Heartland Play Systems, with the mission of integrating battlefield technology into it. In the opening scene, Heartland's head toy designers Erwin and Larry have a meeting with the board members of Globotech. The CEO, Gil Mars, is interested in hearing their thoughts on their newest projects, which involve the development of intelligent, interactive toys. Nervous, Erwin offers the Gorgonites, peaceful beings led by a character named Archer, whose mission is to gather information about Earth. Larry, on the other hand, swiftly introduces the Commando Elite, a special task force of action figures led by Chip Hazard. Despite Erwin's protests, Mars selects the hideous Gorgonites as the Commando Elite's adversaries and assigns them a 3-month deadline to complete their entire project. Erwin deems it impossible due to the extensive testing and design time required, but they have no choice but to proceed. After the meeting, a woman hands the designers their security cards and unique passwords to the company's online account. She instructs them to keep their passwords confidential, but Erwin reads his aloud immediately. Later that night, Larry attempts to access the company's account, but cannot recall his password. As a result, he enters Erwin's password in order to look for internal parts. He then orders thousands of military-grade microprocessor chips, oblivious to the consequences. Eventually, the new toy line is finished and ready for shipment. The subsequent scene introduces us to a schoolboy named Alan Abernathy and his family, who owns an out-of-favor traditional toy store. The store's business is on the brink of collapsing due to low sales. When Alan's father, Stuart, is called away on a business trip, he entrusts Alan with the store, hoping he will prove his worthiness. And also because he's a stereotype bumbling 90s father, and he's an absolute danger to himself and everyone around him. One day, as Alan takes care of the store, a Heartland truck arrives, and the delivery driver, Joe, allows him to sign for several shipments. While doing so, Alan notices some boxes of Commando Elite and Gorgonite toys, intended for a larger store, and decides to take a look at them. To his surprise, when the toys are taken out of their boxes, they become animated and begin to wage war against each other. Alan believes that the toys have been designed extremely well, so he persuades Joe to leave him a complete set of each group, hoping to boost the store's fortunes. Although Joe initially refuses, Alan's pleas eventually convince him to relent.
"Nothing better go wrong or it's my ass, kid,"
says Joe, right before everything goes wrong. While the new toy sets are being loaded inside, Alan's neighbor and romantic interest, Christy Fimple, comes in with her younger brother Timmy to pick out a toy for his birthday. Upon browsing, the boy comes across the feuding toys in the back room. Timmy is so impressed that he begs his sister to buy him one. Christy finds it a bit expensive, but nonetheless, she reserves Chip Hazard for her brother. Just then, her boyfriend arrives to pick her up, and seeing this, Alan is butthurt. Hence, he quickly closes the shop and heads home. Later, while working on a school assignment, Alan discovers the leader of the Gorgonites, Archer, inside his backpack. It turns out the toy had sneaked inside one of the pockets earlier. When Alan activates it, Archer responds by repeating his name. The teenager finds it shocking, but he concludes that he's simply seeing things because of a tiring day at work. So he returns to his schoolwork and eventually falls asleep. In the meantime, Archer comes to life, accesses Alan's computer, and searches for information on a place called Gorgon. Alan also awakens and discovers that Archer is actually a real-life toy with its own mind. They introduce themselves to each other formally, and Archer mentions that their sole goal is to free the Gorgonites. Meanwhile, at the toy store, Chip Hazard breaks free from his packaging and activates the other members of the Commando Elite, which includes Kip Killigan,
Brick Bazooka,
Butch Meathook,
Nick Nitro,
and Link Static. Following this, they embark on their mission to exterminate all Gorgonites. The following morning, Alan discovers the store in disarray, with all of the new toy sets missing. All they find are the shattered remains of one of the Gorgonites. Not long after, Christy arrives and assumes that the store has been robbed, so she assists Alan in cleaning up. Once they are done, Alan stuffs the toy into his backpack and rides his bike home. However, he is unaware that the Commando Elite are pursuing him. They throw Brick onto the bike to assassinate Archer, but the plan goes horribly wrong and he ends comes up crashing into pieces. The Commando Elite then repairs Brick and heads to Alan's house. Meanwhile, Alan calls the company to express his displeasure with the Commando's actions, but he is only met with apathy. Archer attempts to converse with Alan, but the enraged boy orders him to shut up and stop talking. Later, at Globotech, Irwin discovers Alan's voicemail complaint, so he summons Larry to discuss the matter. He claims that they cannot have dangerous toys on the market, or they will be forced to recall the entire line. Larry eventually caves in, and he also reveals that he had inserted munitions chips into the toys, assuming it would be a good fit. Hearing this, Irwin is enraged and perplexed at the same time. He says,
You put munitions chips in toys?
Elsewhere, Alan is asleep in his room while Archer explores the house. A short time later, Chip Hazard and the Commando Elite capture and interrogate him in the kitchen sink. Alan awakens to find the soldiers assaulting Archer, so he rushes to save him, driving the Commando Elite away. In the process, he also jams Nick Nitro into the sink, destroying him from the knees down. The noise alerts his parents, and they quickly rush to investigate the commotion. However, by the time they arrive, Nick Nitro has somehow dragged himself out of the sink and escaped. Meanwhile, after being caught, Alan is forced to confess his illegal acquisition of the toys. The parent-to-son discussion escalates into a heated argument when Alan asserts that the toys were responsible for the missing tools, leading his parents to suspect he might be taken smack. Shortly after, Alan storms into his room and angrily confronts Archer for his lack of support. He demands to know why Archer didn't speak and prove to his parents that the toys are alive. In response, the Gorgonite leader repeats Alan's earlier command to shut up. After the two sort out their differences, they look at the bigger picture and start devising a strategy to locate the other Gorgonites before the Commando Elite do. On the other hand, the Commando Elite congregate in Christie's garage next door, where Chip Hazard delivers a stirring, incoherent speech to his followers. Soon, Nick crawls into the garage and perishes in Chip's arms. Because of this, the enraged group decides to seek vengeance on Alan. They start their plan by converting all the sharp tools, electronics, and other hardware into makeshift vehicles and miniature weapons of mass destruction. The next day, Alan returns to the store and wonders where the Gorgonites are hiding. After a bit of thinking, he realizes that they must be in the trash, as it is the only place where the enemies won't suspect them. So he rushes to the dumpster behind the store and encounters the rest of Archer's team. Thereafter, they use Alan's computer to locate their imagined homeland of Gorgon. Back at Globotech, Irwin and Larry speak with the scientist who invented the microprocessor. The latter claims that the chips are nearly perfect and that they can develop intelligence through learning. The only flaw appears to be a flow that can be destroyed by an electromagnetic pulse. Meanwhile, the Commando Elite taps into the phone lines and eavesdrops on Alan and Christie's innocent flirtation. Link's static is looking baked. They then complete developing their weapons and set out for their mission. At Christie's place, her parents are settling in for a night in front of their brand new, high-tech TV set. The Commando Elite secretly enter the room and administer a few roofies into the couple's drinks, causing them to fall asleep in no time. The soldiers then proceed to Christie's room, where they find Timmy and quickly tie him up before throwing him into the closet. After this, they find Christie's doll collection and come up with a devious, thirsty plan. They implant Nick Nitro's chip into the brains of each of the dolls, turning them into an army of violent zombies. A short while later, Christie's boyfriend drops her off at home. Upon heading towards her bedroom, Christie is shocked when she discovers the assembly of zombie dolls. They drag her down by her feet and bind her, causing her to scream for help. Hearing her cries, her BF rushes to her aid, and he even manages to defeat a few dolls. But just then, the commandos arrive and fire a flamethrower at him, causing him to retreat.
Whatever, babe, you wouldn't put out anyway.
The Commando Elite then forces Christie to make a hostage video, demanding the Gorgonites surrender. When the video reaches Alan, he wastes no time and starts planning a counterattack. In the next scene, he leaves a large box labeled Gorgonites in front of Christie's house. This distracts the commandos, so Alan dashes to the backyard and launches a rocket, sending Archer parachuting into the house. Archer then unlocks the back door and lets his friend Zan. Following this, they proceed to Christie's room, fight the zombie dolls, and eventually set her free. Because of this heroic act, Christie is greatly impressed, and to show her gratitude, she kisses Alan.
Whoa!
Outside, the commandos go through a lengthy procedure and cause an explosion in the box, only to realize that it's just a decoy. As a result, they drive out of the garage and pursue Christy Allen and Archer, who are fleeing on a motor scooter. During the chase, all the commandos crash into a pond and get destroyed, except for the resilient Chip Hazard, who manages to survive despite having a part of his face melted. After, he reaches a nearby toy store, and he hijacks a delivery of new Commando Elite figures and forces the driver Joe to take him to Alan's house. On the other hand, Alan and the gang arrive at his place, where his parents are arguing about recent events. Shortly after, Larry and Irwin also arrive and confirm that the toys have actually come to life. Hearing this, an enraged Stuart smacks Larry across the face, claiming that the toys nearly killed my son! Suddenly, the lights go out, and when Alan peeks through the window, he notices a large army of evil toys approaching them. Chip Hazard mobilizes dozens of commandos and declares war on the Gorgonites and their human allies by unleashing nails, flaming tennis balls, and even firework rockets. The humans are in a state of panic until Irwin and Larry remember that an electromagnetic pulse can disable the microchip in the commandos. Alan, desperate for a source, suggests climbing up to the two transformers outside and fusing them with a metal tool, which would result in an overload and an erupting magnetic field. Larry and Irwin confirm that the plan would work, and they also reveal that the Gorgonites will not survive the blast. Hearing this, Alan hesitates for a bit, but when Archer mentions that it's for the greater good, he sets out to finish the task. He then climbs up the electric pole, but Chip Hazard chases him in a toy helicopter and starts shooting at him. Fortunately, the Gorgonites take control of one of the vehicles and use its weapon to shoot down the helicopter. Before it crashes into a satellite, Chip Hazard manages to jump out and land on the electric pole. He attempts to knock Alan down, but right then, Archer arrives, and the two get into a brutal fight. Unfortunately, Archer is no match for the commando leader, and he is eventually defeated and pushed from the pole. In retaliation, Alan grabs Hazard and jams him between the transformers. This activates the EMP and causes a large explosion, which finally destroys the Commando Elite and their doll allies. The next morning, the CEO of Globotech, Gil Mars, arrives at the scene and bribes all the witnesses to the crisis into silence. Larry is apprehensive about losing his job, but Mars suggests that they raise the price of the Commando Elite and sell them to a South American country's military. Meanwhile, Alan is devastated that he has lost his Gorgonite friends forever. As he cleans up the mess with teary eyes, suddenly, he discovers Archer's bow. He quickly lifts up the toppled satellite dish and becomes elated to find that all the Gorgonites are alive. It turns out that they sheltered themselves inside the dish, because of which they survived the EMP impact. In the final scene, the Gorgonites say their goodbyes to Alan and embark on a quest to find their homeland, Gorgon, on Stuart's model ship. It's a good thing they've got places to be. Thanks, Alan. Me and Christy are gonna need some alone time. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.